Hey, what is good, everybody? So let's just take a quick little tour of our font window before we dive into the core of RoboFont and working with some glyphs. So you have here a grid of potential glyphs, and we're going to get to them in a second, but let's look around the perimeter of this window just to get to know it. So you see on the left-hand side here, you'll see a mostly empty sidebar. Mainly what you have here is a list of all your glyphs, of which there are 201. And then there are these two different menu items called sets. And we'll get into sets in a little bit. It's for something when you have a little bit more glyphs around. But if you don't want to see this view all the time, you can hide it using this button here. So in addition to this grid view, you have down here two little buttons. One is a grid button and one is a list button. You can also look at your font in a list view. This is more helpful when you have more data and more things filled out in your font. I like looking at the grid view. And speaking of the grids, down in the lower right here, you have a slider for making the little blocks bigger and smaller. The bigger the block is, the more of a full idea of the glyph you're going to get, including you'll see things like the background layers and everything inside of your glyph. So if you really want like a zoomed in view of all your glyphs, this is the view for you. But what I like to do is I just like to make them as big as right where the glyph title shows up, a little bit smaller, and you get, the title disappears a little bit, so I like to keep it just about that size. That's just a preference, you do you. So up here, we have a couple of buttons, and you can customize this toolbar if you would like by right-clicking or command-clicking on this button. The bar. The main two features here are your grid view of your font and the Features tab. The Features tab is just a text document where you're going to fill in your features when you have them. These are open type features. These are the sort of whiz-bang things that make an open type font an open type font. Things like small caps and contextual alternates and stuff, you'll be putting them in there. And maybe we'll do features in a different class, but basically all there is to this view is a text document. So the next item is our font info panel. This is probably the most important panel in your entire font project. Here you have various different fields relating to the names and numbers related to your font. And so it's good to kind of fill them out at least with a preliminary little bit of data. So we're just going to call it my cool font regular and give it a version number of 1. And most of the other data we will get to in the future, maybe if it's necessary, but basically on this tab you'll find a bunch of numbers and names relating to various open type tables. Another tab for PostScript stuff, another tab for WAF or web fonts, a miscellaneous tab, and a tab relating to font-specific settings when it comes to RoboFont. These are okay to leave as is for the moment. So really all we want to do is fill in my cool font, regular, and down here you have your font dimensions. So if I open up a glyph real quick, we're going to make an N in the future, but you can see on the side here all the listed font metrics. These are called key dimensions sometimes, and you can edit them right here. So if we wanted to make our X height a little bit higher, I'll just set it to 550. You'll see that it increases here. So after we've set that, I'm just going to save it. Going to just call our font my cool font regular .ufo. UFO we just talked about in the previous section, and make sure to save it. Now, RoboFont does have an autosave function here. It saves about every 10 minutes. You go into Preferences, Miscellaneous. It'll show you where the autosave UFOs are saved to, and you can double click on this to open a window to that area. This is in case you have a crash or your computer gets turned off or something. You need to go back to the last autosave. It's there for you. But it doesn't autosave your current file, so you should get in the habit of, after making any significant change you want to make, you need to save it like a normal document, and it's not going to save automatically for you. So other items at the top here, layers we'll talk about when we talk about glyph. This kerning dialog, it will show all the kerning pairs in the font. It's not really a kerning editor. The kerning editor for RoboFont is called Metrics Machine. But this will list all the kerning pairs in the font. Space Center we opened before. We'll talk about that when we're drawing a glyph. Groups is similar to the kerning dialog. It will just list all the groups. You can do a little editing and grouping of glyphs, but that's more of an advanced thing. Groups are usually related to kerning. The sort button we'll talk about in a future class section. And there's the mark tool. So if we have a glyph where we have a little bit of data, so I'm just adding a little bit of something in that glyph to make it a real glyph, because these are all what are called template glyphs right now, and this is now a real glyph. You can mark a glyph certain colors to denote certain things. Maybe red means you're not quite happy with it. Yellow might be ready to go. Blue means something else. But just to note, you can't mark any glyph that you have not edited yet, because there's nothing to mark. So keep that in mind when you're marking glyphs. If you wanted to edit the colors for your marks, they're right here again in the Preferences and Miscellaneous panel. We can add a new color, like you can name it something semantic, like review me, and you double click on the color. It'll bring up our colored little picker. You can use, this is a standard Mac OS color picker, so maybe our review color is something like magenta. Apply. Any changes you make in the preferences, you need to apply it, and then that will show up in our marks menu. Marks are very useful, especially when you're working with other people. You can tell them what glyphs have been worked on and what glyphs have not. So that's it for a very basic overview of the font window. Now we're going to dive right in and draw our first glyph. So see you in the next section.